Hello, and welcome to the first Mini Mad Cat exclusive Patreon video. I attempted to ad-lib the voiceover for this, but decided I had to write a script, as otherwise I ramble like a madman and it all ends up very, very scattered. To keep me on topic and on task, I've structured the voiceover of the video into 4 parts in the following order. Number 1. Introduction and thanks. Number 2. Basing process, including materials and techniques used. Number 3. Talking about my future on YouTube as a content creator, including that of painting miniatures on a train. And finally, 4. Patreon and what I'm doing here. For the sake of wasted breath and your time, I'll refer to painting miniatures on a train as PMoaT from now on. The next episode of PMoaT I'm hoping will premiere on Friday the 29th of July at 2100 hours, British Summer Time. In the meantime, this is a little thank you video, an addition to the upcoming PMoaT episode. Thanks, Matt. And thank you everyone else who joins us later. I've already spent this month's Patreon money, all £4 of my amassed fortune, into PMoaT by purchasing a portable magnifying glass with light. At worst, the portable mag could end up being kind of shit and useless. At the least, it's going to be kind of fun and humorous to see if I can make it work at all on the train. At best, it could actually end up being a very useful tool. Next time I'm down in Brum, hopefully you and I, Matt, can meet up and I'll show you what I've bought. So, here we're doing the finishing touches on the Krieg Engineers squad, which I painted over, I think, 6 journeys, around 7 hours. The bases are made by clipping and squishing down some bits of wood I had lying in a bag, full of random debris, into some air-dry clay. Pigment powders that we're rubbing in right now. We're using AK Interactive's Light and Medium Rust, and Forge World's Dark Earth, mashing them into gaps, leaving a little of the original wood left on show. Even going around the sides. Not worrying about touching the rim, we'll come to painting that later. We're just mashing that pigment in. So we're starting with the medium, and then we're just picking up some of the light and some of the dark pigment and just creating some variation, leaving a little bit of wood for show. Now later on, once we've done all this pigment work, we take some super glue and struggle to open it and get some glue coming out, but we get it. We get the super glue and we start putting a scatter mix of my own making in place. I'd usually use PVA, but that would take too long. For the sake of the video, we've used super glue. Now, unfortunately, I leave too little time between sticking the scatter and painting it. So the Citadel brush I paint with in this video, not the rubbish dry brush one that I've got in my hand, but the slightly nicer one I'll be using later, gets a little ruined, to be honest. But that's alright. It's old, and it's a Citadel brush, so it was never meant to last. So the scatter mix is a mix of fine grey grit, red rock grit, and some random autumn scatter. The colour doesn't matter at all as it's getting painted. It's the variety in grain shape and size that matters here. I'd like to be able to get my hands on some of Luke's APS or Geek Games Scenics scatter. I know they look like they've got some really nice stuff, but the homemade that I've got is perfectly fine for this. So later on, once we got the scatters glued down, We cover the scatter with AK Interactive's decay deposits for abandoned vehicles, and then come in with ModelMate's mold, giving it all a green tint, which is a nice contrast to the red and blue of the infantryman and the orange of the rust on the base. Now it's all finished off with some Underhive Ash, which is a pale yellow-green dry paint that's been opened a few times a few years back, and I have to fight with it to pick anything up onto the brush. So, and obviously we finish with some black rimming on the base. Maybe it would have looked better with Goblin Green? You tell me. So, PMoaT and my presence on YouTube. The video will premiere, I'm hoping, this coming Friday, tomorrow, the 29th of July at 2100 hours. It's possible because we still have a little bit of work left to do on it. It may not be available until Saturday morning. I don't actually know how long it's going to take to render. This video took a good hour to render, and it's only a half-hour video with the video and music laid over it. Painting Miniatures on a Train episode 2. There's parts where there's like 5 bits of video all overlaid over each other. It could take a long time to render, so please don't hold me to that time, but I'm hoping tomorrow. At this point, I might as well call it a miniatures art film production. It is exactly 1 hour long. It is the result of over 6.5 hours of mini painting footage, and possibly over 70 hours of editing time in total, maybe more. There are barely any parts sped up, and the editing starts very simply. By the end of the hour, I think the progress that I've made as an editor and producer starts to show. Progression with the software is noticeable by the end of this next episode from the last. That being said, I think that had I had the time, I might have brought the production values up further and done more to it. But, like I say, it's taken a lot of time. It's been over a month collecting the footage and nearly 2 full solid weeks of work editing, I think, and that's an underestimation. It's been a great learning experience, both in terms of how I'll do things differently in the future and in simply learning a new skill in video editing and filming. I'd liken learning and gaining skills with video editing on DaVinci Resolve using multiple source materials in one single big project to trying to climb a precarious mountain range with no mountaineering experience and faulty equipment with a small monkey hanging onto your ballsack. It was not devoid of some quick and painful descents from lofty heights. I lost about 2 days worth of work at one point, and that was at a point at which I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to continue to face the project down at all. Time, finances, and my psychological well-being had me nearly defeated. There've been some real highs and lows. I'm not sure if the parts I included are necessarily the best parts for giving guidance on painting Krieg Engineers, but I've tried to include the most interesting visual elements of each step. And PMoaT isn't a mini painting tutorial series anyway. I'm still not really sure what it is actually, other than a little baby that might outgrow me and my capacity to function normally as a human being. Last week I had constant interruptions from what I'm pretty sure now was a scam artist I met on a dating website. Sexy scam artists! Last weekend was my first free one in a while, and I did the bulk of the editing for this and PMoaT then. I've had Alex, one of my high school friends' stag and wedding, a huge Twitch Mini Painters board game meetup, amongst other events taking up almost every weekend since the release of the last episode, and I'm not even mentioning being dismissed from my job by Games Workshop. I can at least promise this, that I'm learning to say no. Right now, for example, I have friends who would love me to be joining them in a game, but I've got to get this done. It's not a great example, but it is what it is. Some things just can't be ignored. On Friday, I'm teaming up with a window cleaning outfit for a part-time window cleaning job. I've experience in traditional methods, having done it as a teenager, but I stopped when water-fed pole systems became more or less mandatory for the industry here in the UK for anything above stepladder height. It'll be good work, no doubt better paid than the job I was dismissed from by Games Workshop. It'll get me outside, it'll keep me physically active, and it should leave me feeling excited to get into the studio to paint, live stream, or record, cut and edit some video. The final piece of footage for painting miniatures on a train was shot on Friday the 8th of July, returning from Birmingham to prepare for my mate's long-planned and long-delayed wedding. That was 2 days past a month since the release of the initial episode, and in my mind, 2 days later than I wanted to release it. I travelled early in the day, naively thinking that once I got home and had finished painting these chaps, that I might start the editing process and get it done nice and quickly. I really felt the pressure, and when that evening I uploaded the footage I had on my phone to my PC, it started to dawn on me what a monumental task I had laid out in front of me. PMoaT Episode 1 required very little in terms of video editing, as it was originally intended. The single simple miniature I chose for that journey took a little over an hour and 10 minutes to paint and was done in one sitting. All I did was slap on an intro, an outro, set the footage at 2x speed, and the music and the voiceover laid over, it was done. Fairly simple, fairly time efficient for me. This edition of PMoaT was a stark contrast to that, and despite it all, I'm thankful for the experience. It closes with a live piano performance at Derby train station and a supercut of the 3 final legs. I've still got to lay the music down and write and record the voiceover, but now I've set all this in stone, I'm much more obliged to hold myself to it. I'm sorry that it's 3 weeks late. I'm sorry I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I'm hoping to be live on Twitch this weekend on Sunday evening for the first time in about 2.5 weeks. I would stream sooner, but my commitments look like they're going to stop me from doing that. Window cleaning on Friday. I've got a long planned game of poker with some local friends on Saturday night. Actually, it's just occurred to me that my plans on Sunday morning and daytime to play games at the Dice Cup Cafe have been cancelled, so I will be streaming all day on Sunday. If you're on Twitch, keep an eye out for me when I go live. I'll start posting my live notifications to Twitter and other platforms in the next week or so. So the name on Twitch is Mad Cat Miniatures, one word. On all other platforms, you can find me as Mini Madcat or the Mini Madcat. Thanks again for your support. Don't forget, PMoaT Episode 2 this Friday, the 29th of July at 2100 hours. And if you don't see it go live, expect to see it the next day in the morning. So I've run out of script, but there are a number of things that I think I can cogently add. I expect to get an Etsy shop set up in the not too distant future. It's likely that I will use this Etsy shop as a place to put up miniatures that I've already painted for sale. So we're using the abandoned vehicle decay deposits from AK Interactive at the moment. We're letting the capillary action do its magic. All we're really needing to do is just touch those parts where there's flock and scatter. It looks quite grey, but it's got a green tint to it. It's amazing stuff actually used on a body of a vehicle that you intend to have look abandoned. It's something else as a effects paint. But honestly, I don't know how I'm going to fill out an hour of talking. I don't think I will. I think it will just be as simple as that. I won't even attempt to. It would be a fool's errand if I can't fill out a half hour, which is what this is. I think there's only so much that I can actually... I know I can talk for England sometimes, but, you know, so I thought I'd do better than this, but... Hope you like the piano. I spent a decent amount of time looking for something this morning that I wouldn't have to credit. I think it would be a great benefit to the info section of the video to not be cluttered up with posts and links to other people's websites and music and content. God, I'm genuinely surprised that I got through 1,500 words that quickly. I don't feel like I could talk any slower, but maybe I could work on it. I don't think it would be helpful beyond filling a void, and sometimes that's unnecessary. So last one for the decay deposits. So one of the things that we have obviously learnt whilst I was shooting this footage, especially once watching it back and editing it, is that I got really good footage of the back of my thumb. I don't have this problem when I stream on Twitch so much, so I'm not sure if when I'm doing this sort of work at home, I'll shoot it in the light box as I have done here. Like I say, there's a lot of learning that's been going on. And although I've bemoaned the amount of time I've spent on PMoaT and this episode, I do feel like my ability to produce content at a reasonable rate, there's a chance that I could do that. With all of this experience I've accumulated from these 2 videos, I think I could probably turn YouTube into something that I actually do properly. But it's going to be a bit of a gradual ramping up. So now we're using the mold. In some instances, we haven't even waited for the decay deposits to actually dry, but it doesn't really matter. The mold is just a bit darker and is effectively acting like a wash. And we're using it just underneath the planks all around the sides because it's quite a nice earthy green. So naturally, with this as a Patreon, I open this up to you. I open up my content, open up suggestion of where you'd like to see it go. We're building up to the giant eyeball and goblin green bases and, you know, those sorts of things. That's the sort of thing that only the top painters can really pull off, you know. I'm not pro painted eBay, you know, those big head-sized eyes, and you know, then it's a real challenge for me as a painter. So you can see me using the dry paint now under high bash, and I'm having to really mash the bristles in, really mash them in, try and pick some up, but it works. Gets a little bit better and starts to get a bit easier to work because we find a soft and squidgy spot in there. There is inside a slightly soft and squidgy place. I think there's some medium that's dried on the side, but it might just be a deformed pot. So you can see now that that bright yellowy green is really starting to make the rest of the miniature pop. I found a bit of medium in there just then. So there's a number of cuts which you don't really see or notice on this video because my hands go off screen and I just cut out any of the lost time. So, in the last 3 minutes of the video now, I think, because we're playing my song that started at the beginning. It's a slightly different version. Now, actually, Matt, speaking directly to you now, mate. If you haven't gotten yourself a wet palette at this stage, I'm meant to be having one arrive in the next day or so to replace the one that I've got, because the one that I've got isn't amazing, because the paper in it is, you know, it comes with like a load of sheets, comes with a sponge. It's a good wet palette, but I've heard that the one that I'm buying is a little bit better, so I'm keen to get my hands on it. So I've gone and purchased that with my own money. And if you want this one that I have been using for the last couple of years, you'd be welcome to it. Otherwise, it's likely to just be sort of sitting as a backup or something. So do let me know if you fancy it. It's a large Red Grass Games wet palette. It's the blue one if you look it up. I might keep the wavy well though, the wavy well strip. But we'll see. No, I mean I will keep that. I use that for painting miniatures on a train constantly. I don't know what I'd do without it at this point. But I could always buy another one, or you could, if you wanted the well that magnetizes onto the front, you could get one yourself. But they're only a couple of quid from Element Games. So this looks sped up to me, but from memory, I didn't speed up any of the footage from this. No, that's definitely sped up. Let me know what you think about the speeding up or not of the footage once the video comes out tomorrow or on Saturday. I'd like to know your thoughts. I'd like to know everyone's thoughts, whether or not they think that it works or not. It'd be really useful to know whether or not, you know, I should just be using real-time footage or not. Is this a bit... Does this put you on edge watching this or anything of the sort? I don't know. Anyway, thanks again for your support. Don't forget, PMoaT Episode 2 this Friday, the 29th of July at 2100 hours. Failing that, it should be uploaded ready for a premiere at 0900 hours on the Saturday the 30th. Thanks again for watching. Thanks for supporting me. Thank you so much. And just give us a ding whenever you want, Matt. I haven't heard from you since I last messaged you, so I hope you're alright. So, Mad Cat signing off. Signing off whilst we do these rims. Question everything and have fun. Be well. Take care.